Brake Check Podcast. I'm Craig.
And I'm Brian.
And this is episode 21, and we've got some news for you. A couple recaps on some cars we've recently had. And Brian, maybe our favorite segment we've ever done, fun with comments, and we've got some good ones. So,
yes.
Hope you're ready. I'm ready. And Brian, we've got some news. Let's just dive right into it. You've got the first topic, and it's something near and dear to any gearhead's heart, and that is what?
Mm-hmm. That is the Inline 6 engine.
Yes, thank you.
The best. If you've ever driven an ultimate driving machine, as BMW has dubbed it, it had an Inline 6.
Yes.
And it was naturally aspirated, but, there's others that have done it. Maybe you've heard of them, Craig. The 2JZ, for example, was a turbo variant of an Inline 6 that Toyota made and still exists in the drifting and the drag racing world and still in some road cross cars. 1,000 horse all the time, usually doesn't blow up, legendary style motor. That configuration has been around for ages. Now, I will say the Americans haven't embraced it in a long time. And correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, the last one I remember one being made was probably the Ford 300 cubic inch.
That or the 4-liter Jeep.
Okay. Yep. That would be the last one. Absolutely. Yeah.
Unless you want to count any diesels.
Right, I'm talking gas in my mind right now.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Cummins diesel trucks are inline sixes, the Rams. So those are still in existence.
Oh, I know the GMC straight six.
That's right.
That was the most modern one. Yeah,
that was the GM version. It was a 4.2, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, natural aspirated. That would have been the same time frame as the Jeep inline sixes. They were kind of in the same.
Yeah, but era. It was developed after that. That Jeep inline
six
is an old Blue Flame special. It's it's really old. So
I'm glad you brought Blue Flame up because we're gonna get into that here. And there's two. And here's the real news. Here's the headline. There's two inline six motors, ICE motors. Not I know EV is the tagline right now, and a very much viable part of the future. But there are two manufacturers that are actively building new architecture inline sixes, and one is Mazda, and the other is
of course it's Mazda.
Of course it's Mazda. Of course it is. Actually, it's kind of a left field.
I'm gonna bet the next manufacturer doesn't surprise me either.
Stellantis.
Wait, is that a drug?
No. That's what used to be FCA, which used to be Mopar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. The Pentastar land.
All right. Okay. Yeah. That company. Yeah.
That company.
Not surprised.
Let's dig into theirs first, because I've got some data here I want to get into. So the internal name for it is the Tornado.
Haha. I love internal names that actually are fun like that. So good job.
Me too. Yeah. Look, if you just leave it, here's the product name is GME T6. That's kind of boring. You got to have a cool name for it. So Tornado, good job, Stellantis. Hats off to you. Here's what we know. There's a lot of rumors going around, and in the Mopar world, and I don't know about you, Craig, I've found that a lot of the, there's different forums for different brands on people that just focus on the rumors of what's coming out. And I found that the Mopar rumors seem to be kind of far-fetched sometimes. But, Dodge does things called the Demon and the Hellcat, and they do some far-fetched things. So maybe it's not that far-fetched. But here's what we know, or what we think we know. This is actually what we do know. It is going to be based on the current 2.0 T 4-cylinder architecture.
Ooh,
which is actually a Fiat 4-cylinder.
Uh-huh.
So in the States, you see that in the 4xe Grand Cherokee, which is just out, the 4xe Wrangler, and also all the 2-liter turbo Wranglers in general have that motor in it. So this is going to be the same architecture with 2 cylinders lopped on the end of it. So that's good and bad. The bad is that motor hasn't been 100% foolproof. The good news is it has been out for a while, so a lot of part sharing will still exist, and things we have learned about the 2-liter will apply to this and help it be more reliable going forward. So I don't think it's a total.
Does that mean it's going to be a 3-liter?
It'll be a 3-liter. Yes, it'll be a 3-liter.
All right.
So they're following the BMW style of a half-liter per cylinder.
The German style.
The German style. Yeah, exactly. Which is cool. I'm excited about it. I think that's a really good deal. You mentioned Blue Flame. Well, look, the last major American inline that I was thinking of was the 4-liter out of the Jeeps, and they had an HO version. This will also have an HO version, so there'll be a standard output and an HO. Now, my understanding right now is that the standard versions will be used elsewhere in the world. The HO will be applied to basically every U.S. application.
God bless America.
God bless America. Absolutely.
Yes.
So this is already in production, by the way. It started in November of this year. It's in production in Mexico. And here are the vehicles that
God bless North America.
God bless North America.
Sorry.
And probably parts of Canada.
Oh, yeah, that's
as well. Yeah. Here are the vehicles we know it's going to go into. The Ram 1500, the Gladiator, which means the Wrangler. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That's big news.
Love the 3.6, but some turbo power there would be nice.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, absolutely. And inline, by the way, because the Wrangler and the Cherokee is what used to have the inline 4-liter, which was a legend of a motor.
Yeah.
People use them to this day. I mean, the Jeeps fall apart around them and the motor never stops, which in a weird path through AMC used to be a GM, used to be in one of the original Corvette motor, was based on that engine. Blue Flame Special. Totally crazy.
So weird.
Really good. Yeah. So the lineage there is there, and it's really cool. It's also going to land in the Grand Cherokee and the Wagoneer, not the Grand Wagoneer, but the Wagoneer.
Very interesting. Okay.
Very, very interesting. And it is said to be paired with a low voltage hybrid system.
So basically, let me make sure I'm tracking. So just about almost every application, not all, but let me rephrase. Every rear-wheel drive application you see the 3.6 in, you'll probably see this engine in.
Well, let me shift your thought real quick.
Okay.
This is not so much aimed to take the 3.6 out, but to replace the Hemi, the 5.7 Hemi.
Interesting.
Not the 6.4, but the 5.7. And so I think it's going to split the difference, right? I don't think it's going to have the same horsepower as the Hemi.
Sure.
But the idea behind this, and one of the complaints on the pushrod Hemi world, is that it's a Revy engine, which is what makes it fun. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah,
but
of course.
For trucks and off-roading applications, it lacks mid-range and down-low torque compared to its competitors.
That's
true.
If
you want to get mid-range torque, inline 6, and then throw a turbo on it, dude.
Oh, you're in business.
It's hard to beat. Yeah, you're in business. So that's going to really take the place, I think, for.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you got to think of it that way. So think of it as a Hemi bridge. More than a Pentastar replacement, because I think that 3.6 is going to still hang out for a while.
In conjunction with, a Hemi bridge in conjunction with, they can pair the hybrid technology, which is probably a key part to this as well.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. Okay. Well, look, the hybrid technologies are, and I'm not saying full hybrid. I'm talking about the mild hybrid system.
Right. Just like in the 2-liter.
Just like the 2-liter and the Hemi and the 3.6. They've all used it before.
Okay.
And it helps basically do torque fill. So when the turbo hasn't woken up yet, it helps out with that.
So this does make sense in the essence that, because all you hear is ICE is going away. But you also hear manufacturers talking about, we've got to get more battery, we've got to get more electric, whether that's a hybrid or full on.
Exactly.
So this is a stepping stone for them to get more hybrid in place, is what it sounds like.
Well, and yeah, I know I just mentioned mild hybrid, but this is intended to be used with the 4xe application on the Grand Cherokee as well. So that is a proper hybrid system, not just a sandwich pancake, basically big starter with a battery on it motor.
Right.
This is actually a proper hybrid. So yes, the answer to that is yes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you got more i6 news. I want to ask you a question when you're done with that. So.
Oh, sure. And that kind of wraps up the Stellantis side. I'm actually ready to move over to Mazda. Well, actually, one more note on the Stellantis.
Okay.
This is also rumored to go into the next Charger and Challenger.
Okay. Again, you could get a Hemi in those. So this makes sense. Okay.
Right. But also, those are rumored to be EV, full EV capable. So this tells me that, because we've already seen Stellantis publicly announce, hey, we're going full EV. Your Hellcat replacement won't be a Hellcat. It'll be a battery. This tells me that your rental car will still have a gas option.
Right. Okay.
And that's probably what will happen here.
Your
SXTs and that kind of stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe they bring the standard output, not the high output for that. Maybe that's what they do there.
Yeah, I'm sure this will start out as an upgrade, but eventually will be phased into, this is what everything's going to have.
Sure. Exactly.
Okay. I like it.
Okay. On to Mazda. This one's a little bit quicker. But I do have some data here. And this one really intrigues me, Craig, because we've off air, we've talked about this quite a bit, how Mazda seems to be pulling off the BMW trick of 30 years ago, where they have just decided that, and granted, we've said this a million times before, for better or worse, Mazda's not a huge company. Right. They don't have the pockets of the big three or the Volkswagen Audi group or Mercedes-Benz or anybody like that. So when they make a decision like this, it takes quite a lot of commitment. So I want to commend them on this. They really kind of snuck up on us, Craig. I did not, when this news hit me a few months ago, I got wind of this. It caught me off guard. They have a rear-wheel drive architecture coming out. It's supposed to be coming out next year or the year after. And that's what this motor is intended to be used in. It's a global platform, and it has the ability, obviously, to go all-wheel drive. It has the ability to be future EV powered. But Mazda has said by 2030, they want every vehicle in their lineup to be EV assisted. Not
Okay.
pure EV, though there will be some, but they're acknowledging that
Yeah.
there's still an ICE component, and this is going to be a key of that. And this is intended to be just like the Stellantis.
Mm-hmm.
The Stellantis motor is actually probably the last ICE development engine
Yeah.
for them. This is probably the same thing for Mazda.
Yeah. This
And
is
we'll
interesting because, you know, and it, you know, and that actually makes more sense because all we keep hearing is these big press headlines of so-and-so car company going to all EV by such and such year, right? But
Right.
when you dig into the details, like you just said, the details are really not everything's going to be EV. It's they're transitioning to it, and that stepping stone is a hybrid or EV assisted ICE engine.
Which,
So
makes a lot of sense because
makes
we've
more,
talked
yeah, yeah,
a lot, if you're in stop and go traffic, why have that gas motor idling when you have the ability to run on battery power?
sure,
But then when you do the highway trip where not every vehicle is set up for that, while we've proved with the Mach-E it can be done, that takes a lot of commitment that some people maybe aren't ready to do yet.
Mhm.
And also the grid isn't ready for every car to be EV. So that's a very real component. So this helps that as well.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So let me talk about it a little bit. It's actually, man, this really caught me off guard. So you've got two variants on this.
Okay.
You've got a gas and a diesel.
Ooh, interesting.
Both are 3-liter inline sixes.
Okay.
They are both mild hybrid assist, the 48-volt style.
Yeah.
Not the same as FCA's or Stellantis's, but similar vein, right? A lot of people are
Sure.
using the 48-volt
Mercedes.
variant.
Yeah.
Mercedes, Audi, they're all
Yeah.
doing it now. But this is their version of it. So the 3-liter i6 diesel will also have the 48 volt EV assist. It is unclear if that will land in the US or not.
Of course.
As of now, it's most likely going to be a European variant and maybe a Asian variant, but most likely that's a Europe tool right there.
Sure. Seems like, yeah.
What will and what is intended to make it to the US is a 3-liter gas hybrid as well. It'll be the 48 volt. Again, both of these are rear-wheel drive configurations, so these are not going to be front-wheel drive Mazda 3s. These are probably going to be a replacement for the Mazda 6 sedan. And here's the interesting thing for me, and I'm just making a prediction here. This is not, I have no data to back this. This is just opinion. I bet we see this end up being a crossover variant more than a sedan variant.
Okay, but rural drive.
But rear-wheel drive, yes.
And that's the key part to me.
That, exactly, because the market doesn't want, I'll be honest, Mazda has no business making an S-Class. That's just, it just doesn't make sense for them to do that. And they've killed off the Mazda 6. It makes sense for them to do. Now, I would love a rear-wheel drive Mazda 6. Are you kidding me? That'd be great.
No, you're exactly right.
But it's just no one's going to buy it. So it's in their best interest to do a lifted version of it, and they'll do that, and they'll sell a ton of them.
But again, the exciting part there is because again the inherent design of an i6, and packaging wise, it's got to be rear-wheel drive.
It has to, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, Volkswagen did a front-wheel drive. Their version of a front-wheel drive i6, and it was actually called a VR6, and that they basically staggered the cylinders off instead of putting them in a row. It's the only way they could fit it in a front-wheel drive platform, and it was cool. But it just doesn't work with an inline unless the car is as wide as a Hummer. It just doesn't make sense,
right? Or a TRX or the new Hummer.
Exactly. Yes, right. Or just a modern truck. Actually, modern trucks can do that, no problem.
Yeah, probably.
But anyways, I think it's very exciting. We've got not one but two inline sixes coming out because they look. If you're a gearhead, an inline six is just inherently buttery smooth. The power delivery is smooth. The idle is smooth. It's a balanced inline configuration. Whereas, the 4 cylinders are always having counterweights and stuff. So it's really cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to see it.
No, it is really neat. Thanks for the updates on those. And that's what's so cool about the inline sixes is they're naturally balanced. And I'm just trying to think through all the straight sixes I've driven. You get the Jeep 4-liter, the Ford 300 cubic inch, the 4.9 liter, what do they call it? The Cummins, several iterations of
Oh, yeah.
that. The GMC new straight six, some BMW straight sixes, and every single one I've ever driven, they all live up to the smoothness thing. They are just smooth as silk. So
100%. No, I'm so excited. In fact, I keep looking back at my vehicle ownership, path, and I kind of go, why haven't I had one of these yet?
yeah.
They seem every time I drive one, I go, they're so good. So, anyways,
And,
I'm excited about that. Can't wait for them to come out.
so, and what I also love is in a weird way because of the electric push, we're getting these straight six turbo vehicles for whatever reason.
I
And the
think these
reason
are a blip in the matrix, man. It's
it's
so weird to me that,
I know
like, in a world of CVTs and hybrids, what I feel like these were in the pipeline for a while, and because engine architecture takes a long time to
Mhm.
engineer, makes me think that these were in the line before the EV push really came out.
It's really
Um,
interesting because what killed the straight sixes previously was front wheel drive and the push for fuel economy, right?
and
And
packaging, yeah,
packaging and
exactly.
efficiency. And then what's bringing it back is the push for efficiency and with the electric. So it's so cool,
Right.
so neat. Pretty neat to see how that plays out. So along those lines, Brian, I've got some news.
Let's hear it.
And that is this may not be as fun for us to talk about, but Brian, Hyundai allegedly, at least this is the report, is ending combustion engine development. And by that, we mean here's the report. Business Korea, it's a publication,
Okay.
reported that Hyundai Motor Company has abolished its engine development center at its 12,000 employee strong R&D headquarters in South Korea.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Does that mean ICE engines are completely gone away? Well, it means new ones are not being developed, but it
Right.
kind of like
Which is what everyone's saying right now, by the way.
but you alluded to it and you did a great job with the Mazda story. The automakers do policies to no longer launch new vehicles powered solely by ICE technology. So to me, the headline
Right.
within the headline is Hyundai stops combustion engine development. Well, that's the headline. But the fine print is
20 more years of ice.
what the fine print is if it's not a system with a battery, they're ending it. So
Right. Right.
So
well,
I
they've
find,
taken those same engineers and said, can you put a battery on that? And they go,
yeah.
sure. And that's what's happening.
Yeah. So I don't have a whole lot other news on it other than that. Other than it's just another chink in the armor of ICE development.
Yeah.
And so kind of sad and interesting to see. And it's a different headline than the normal headlines we get from other manufacturers. So most manufacturers would get all these headlines of by whatever year we're going to be EV. This is kind of like details along that headline. So
right.
Hey, not only by such and such year is this going to happen, this is also look, we're done developing ICE engines alone, ICE standalone engines. That's
right.
That's kind of crazy. And it's funny because you and I have talked about it a bunch of times, but 6 months ago, a year ago, we were, we know it's come, we can see it kind of around the horizon, right? Like we know it's coming this direction, but like no one wanted to admit it. And when you and I couldn't accept it, we're like, there's no way it's really going to happen. But as we go on each day, we keep getting more and more news where it not only is it happening, we're seeing it happen now. It's not around the corner, it's in front of our face. And
yeah, it's here.
That's
yeah.
And
we spend a lot of time in this field. This is what we do. And I'll be honest, 6 months ago, you and I sat down with experts from EVTS and from other manufacturers, and we talked about them, and they told us, bar none, by 2030, more than half of the cars in the road will be EV. And I'm here to tell you, I still don't quite believe that, but I do see where it comes from. And then when we had the Mach E recently and just lived with it, we both went, "Oh, I get it. Of course, this is just the latest tech. Like, why would we not pursue this?"
Right. But to soften the blow for any of those that are ICE happy and are bemoaning the loss of them, like all these stories say, it's going to be a minute.
Oh, for sure. We're looking at 20 years until that's mainstream.
And in all honesty, it's going to be pretty cool. We're only going to get better assisted ICE engines for a while is what we're going to get. Battery technology is cool, especially paired with an ICE engine. Like you said earlier, it's the best of both worlds. Formula One's been doing it for 8 years now. I mean, this is not new. And guess what they've done in Formula One? They didn't get slower when they went to V6s from V8s.
Right.
The
They
lap
got
times
faster.
they got faster. So
Right.
that's all this means. The cars.
Well,
will
let's bring
just
this
get better.
around. Craig, we're from Texas. Let's bring this around. The Coyote powered F-150,
Mhm.
whilst near and dear to my heart
Mhm.
and gets my blood boiling,
Mhm.
is slower than the EcoBoost V6.
Yeah, good point.
And guess what? An EcoBoost V6 with a battery behind it is faster than a regular EcoBoost V6. That's just
Yeah.
the way it goes. And I
Yeah.
think what we're going to see,
Yeah.
and the gearheads in us, the big problem here is losing the manual, because when you go to a hybrid tech platform,
Yeah.
usually there's not a manual transmission developed to work with it.
Sure.
So that's the real problem. But the reality is the cars that we like because they're fast will just get faster because of this.
Exactly.
We're going to have like this burnout of petroleum, and they're going to be at the peak. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's going to be cool.
It's going to be, yeah. The last actual ICE engine ever made in the car is going to be probably the fastest one ever out there, because it's going to be paired with some freaking awesome battery. So
look, Dodge is going to crank out something Hellcat where the front axle is just EV when you need it. It helps it launch. And it's just going to make what's already fast have traction. It's going to be great.
And it'll make the Demon look like an idiot. So it'll be interesting. So okay.
I have one more cynical remark before we move on.
Yeah.
You said Hyundai is ceasing ICE production.
Mm-hmm.
Are they known for anything legendary in the ICE world? No. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
I mean, look, they've
got pretty shots fired there. I mean, they got some good engines.
It's not like Ferrari called them and said, we're not going to make any more cross-lane V8s. That's what I'm getting at.
I hear you, but they've made some solid motors. But you're right.
Sure. No
one's
3.3 turbo is cool and that kind of stuff. But
you're right. Nobody's writing any love stories or songs about any of their motors. So
exactly.
I'm aware of. Maybe there's some K-pops and stuff. I don't know. But
well, just in our region, it's not really like people aren't. Well, I say that people are swapping some Kia motors now, but you know what I mean? It's not one of those things where people are like, oh, swapping them left and right.
I haven't spent a lot of times on forums trying to figure out how to do anything with those. I'll say that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Now, we've talked about a lot of technology, future things coming. I think this is a great transition, the next vehicle we're talking about, because we're going to
talk about the past.
We're going to go back in time to the dinosaur age. And that is, Brian, we recently had I kid you not, was it, well, first off, was that a 2021 or 2022?
It was a 22, Craig.
Okay. I just want to make sure, actually. I thought it was 2022, but I'm like, there's no way. Okay. We had the 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro.
In Lime Rush green.
Lime Rush. And I am so glad we're talking about this on a podcast, because, Brian, when we do our videos, we know people are watching videos because they want to get more information on the car they're thinking about buying or they already own.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So every car has something positive to say, and we like to point those things out. And we'll like to sandwich our comments. So if there's something we don't like, we'll sandwich it around positive comments, but we'll mention the things that maybe irritate us. But we won't.
Well, and we're not going to ignore things we don't like. But
we're not going to waste our viewers' time with a bunch of rants of things we don't like. But that's what the podcast is for.
Exactly. Let's hear it, Craig. You go first.
Okay. I am appalled, and Toyota should be ashamed that this is a 2022 model. It is ridiculous. I think we talked about it on the thing, but was it back to 2004, 2005 when that third gen or fourth gen 4Runner came out? Whichever one that was the most recent.
It was 2004.
2004. That 4-liter V6 came out with the 5-speed automatic. That's what this has.
Well, hey, wait, hold on. There's good news. They went to a V8 after that 4-liter, Craig.
Yeah, then they took it back away.
And they took it back away and put the 4-liter V6 back in.
Well, they still always had the 4-liter, but yes, I don't. It's the powertrain has not changed, Brian. They literally have done nothing to it except take it where it made it work. I'm sorry. They made the transmission a sealed unit now, so you can't change the fluid. That's it. They didn't make the transmission any better. They just made it harder for you to service.
Look, while we're talking transmission, there's one thing that thing was really good at, Craig, and that was not holding overdrive.
Oh my goodness. It's underpowered, anemic, not geared properly. I understand Toyotas are reliable. I'm
sure.
Here to
credit
tell
where
you,
it's due. Credit where it's due.
You're right.
Thing will never stop working.
Nothing's going to stop working on that thing, but it's not going to be anywhere close to the class leader at anything.
Nope.
And that's where the shame part comes into Toyota. I'm Mr. Toyota fanboy. I love Toyota. I've had Toyotas.
You've owned them. You love them.
I love them too.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to rag on Toyota here, but
yeah.
This is one of the examples where I kind of go, oh, this is where you pay more and get less. That's what's
It's
happening here.
and it's appalling. Like, and I said it off air when we were filming. I'm fine with this product, but it
Sure.
should be $5,000 or $10,000 less than any of its competitors because it's that ancient of technology.
Right.
I understand you're getting new stuff, but it's ancient technology. It shouldn't. It should be that. It should reflect that in the price, and that's my frustration with it. Now
You know, if I got the feeling that Toyota had re-engineered something and we needed to pay for that service and that
Mhm.
labor, I'm with you. That's what I'm saying. I would
Mhm.
understand the price. That's not the case here.
No.
You know, and in fact, I remember driving the same rig. Well, it was the Tacoma we drove, but the same interior generation
Mhm.
with a Toyota rep at a recent event. And he tried to point out the camera system, and I said, "Is that a flip phone screen or is that a backup camera?" And he laughed and he goes, "Well, you know, this thing's getting updated next year." So
Yeah,
that's the good news, is that there are
that's
things
true.
coming down the line,
Yes.
and we have driven the new Tundra, and it has a killer interior.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that. But sadly, there's 2 or 3 more calendar years of the 400
And at
left.
that
So
point, it's going to be
we're not the
almost.
last year of it.
It's going to be almost. It's going to be 2023 or 2024. That's Brian. That is 20 years.
Yeah.
That basically the vehicle went unchanged.
Well,
Now,
look, people want to rag Nissan and the Frontier for doing this. Toyota just one-upped them,
yeah.
by 6 years.
Oh my gosh, it's. I remember Ford used to get destroyed for not updating the Taurus or something stupid,
Right.
And are you kidding me? Look at this thing. It's appalling. I don't have any other words for it. Actually at a loss for words. Overall, it's a fine vehicle. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh,
Go get it
sure.
if you want it. It'll do everything and not break down. But it was one of those cars we just drove around. We get all these press cars and we drive the newer stuff and we're used to all the newer tech.
Sure.
And
Or at least a newer chassis, didn't feel
yeah, eh,
you know yeah, it caught me off guard. This thing left me befuddled a little bit.
and I drove it around and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a fun runabout. But I basically was just so underwhelmed and disappointed because I'm like, I can't believe this is a 2022. I just
But do you know what's funny, Craig, is I typically like old Toyotas
uh-huh.
because I feel like they were really onto something in the 90s and the early
Sure.
2000s. And I drove the 400 last year, the Trail Edition, the non-TRD
Yeah.
Pro, and I thought to myself, this is still like kind of a cool rough and tumble,
Sure.
really comfortable, a lot of room in there. No complaints there. Pretty quiet on the highway,
Mhm.
quiet enough, and had some old school charm to it, right?
Mhm.
We drove this one this year, and I thought to myself, this is just a bridge too far,
It's
because
yeah.
it's not like it was a bargain. If you
No.
now, in fairness, you can get a 400 that's more reasonably priced. It's not the TRD Pro.
Sure.
And I would probably like that better because one, it's 10 grand less right off the bat.
Absolutely.
And part of my complaint was that this thing was so tall with the roof rack and stuff that it couldn't hold overdrive on the highway.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that may not be the case for others.
All
Don't take
fair
this as a
points.
total rag on the 400 as a blanket statement. I just thought the TRD Pro is just such a not value for the segment.
Yeah.
It was a hard pill to swallow.
Well, and that's another one of my points is, it's one thing like if you get a used F-150 or a Silverado that's 5 or 6 years old, you're saving half the price off a new one, just like any used car,
right.
right?
Oh, good point.
But
Yeah.
you are getting a previous generation and older technology, so there's a trade-off. Like there's some incentive to get the new thing,
Sure.
and that's again my problem with this 4Runner. If you get a 5 or 6-year-old 4Runner, you're going to save $10,000-$15,000. But there's no trade-off in technology drop. So just
At
get that
all.
one.
Yeah.
Why get the new one? I don't understand it.
Well, and the
So
beauty of it being a Toyota, Craig, is that it's so reliable
sure.
that get the one with 80,000 miles on it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Credit
and
to Toyota's,
yeah.
dude, just get the used one. You're going to be fine.
And that's my takeaway with this thing. Don't buy a new one.
Right.
Just don't.
Which is crazy to say because typically, look, we're in the line of business of saying the opposite of that. And now we are bargain hunters, but
Sure.
usually there's good merit for getting the latest thing.
Yep.
And this is just not one of them. And
Nope.
look, we know what Toyota can do. They've done some incredible engineering over the years. And I'm like, look, the GR86 is coming out. I'm really excited about that.
Yep.
They're making a name for themselves in drivers' cars. When they update this, I'm sure it will be the latest thing. But right now, it's just, at least in pro trim, it's just not enough for me.
Yep. Fun car, but look, the biggest problem with the 4Runner is the Bronco and Wrangler exist. And the Wrangler is a great example of something that's been around since 1941.
Yep.
But they have updated it over
Fresh.
time, refreshed it, updated it, kept it modern, kept it up to date, kept it a class leader. Versus Toyota just made it in 2004 and said, "We're done," and that's it.
This is a
So
classic case of, well, we don't have to.
they're
It
look,
it, it
they don't have to because people are buying them. They're
totally
duping the consumer, and that's my frustration.
well.
They're
Look,
getting away with it because the consumer is falling for it.
that is true. That is true. As much as I want to defend him, that is true. But the reality is, Craig, you brought it up in the episode. You brought up a good point. When they put cool colors on this thing and didn't change a thing, it started selling like hotcakes. And it's
Yep.
still selling like hotcakes.
You know,
And people are going to keep buying these things until it gets refreshed, and it's not going to slow down. So
and that's
the
the
market
craziest
has
thing.
not told them otherwise.
And that's the craziest thing, that the last 5 or 6 years, they've sold more than they ever have in the 4Runner. They've gone
Right.
up in sales of late.
It's an anomaly. So
it's
credit
kinda-
to them.
Yep.
It's working.
Look, we're in the Dallas Cowboy area. I want to take this to a sports example.
Oh, great.
Everybody rails on the Cowboys for not winning a Super Bowl in 20 plus years, you know, about as long as the 4Runner's been out.
Exactly. Yep.
And they always want to blame Jerry Jones, the owner, for not doing things different. Well, he's not going to do anything different until the fans quit coming. Well, the fans keep coming for the Cowboys and the 4Runner. Why would Toyota or Jerry Jones change what they're doing? That's my point. So,
Craig, you just nailed it. You know what the last year will be of this generation? The Dallas Cowboys edition 4Runner. That's what it's going to be. They're going to ditch the Trail edition, and they're going to do the Jerry Jones edition. It's going to be awesome, and they're going to sell them all.
Yeah.
Oh, and they'll keep. Someone will buy it, and they'll put a Cowboy sticker on the back, and the Cowboys will keep losing. In fact, the 4Runner will last as long as the Cowboys will keep losing. That's actually great for Toyota.
That's a great question for you. If the Cowboys win a Super Bowl this year, does Toyota update the 4Runner?
No, because we've got 2 more years.
Okay. Well, all right. So in the vein of the Wrangler that gets updated properly, that's been around forever, and they haven't messed with the bones of that thing.
The formula, yeah.
There's another car manufacturer that has a formula that works really well. They stole it from the Brits, and they did it back in 1989, and that was the Mazda Miata.
Yes.
And with the NA, we recently had the ND, not just the ND, the ND2. ND2 should let you know. So those are generations. You have, it's real simple. NA, NB, NC, ND. It's a good formula and easy to follow.
Sure.
But the reason there's a 2 there, Brian, is because Mazda doesn't just rest on their laurels. They actually updated this current generation partway through.
Yep.
More than just sealing the transmission. They bumped up and
Right.
hot rodded the engine and made it better. So,
what
Brian,
a gem.
Why don't you dig into this Miata? Actually, that video went live today of the filming of this podcast or recording of this podcast. And we had the RF before that, but this was the soft top. I'll let you dig into this one.
Well, excuse me. I would like to acknowledge something. You said in A, B, C, D. Well, look, Mazda's already said they're going to be E everything at some point. So when the NE comes out, I wonder if that's going to be electric or at least electric assisted. Okay. Just a little brain candy there for you.
Okay.
So back to the ND. And I've talked about this before. I love Miatas. I don't fit in them, but I still love them desperately. Every time I drive one, I go, this is what I think every sports car should be. And if you grew up in America, and my high school era was in the mid 2000s, American sports cars were crap. They didn't drive anything like that. They were relatively quick in a straight line and happy to oversteer novice drivers into crowds of people. Didn't make you a better driver at all. Made a bunch of noise, but didn't drive well. And the Miata has always been that for me. Now, is it fast? No, but that's not the point. The point is that it's a proper sports car / roadster through and through. Yep. And this to me feels like a curated, purified version of what the NA can be now with today's technology. And that's exactly what it is. It weighs less than the first Miata, and it has
amazing,
which is amazing. And it has 75 some odd horsepower more. Like, that's credible.
That's
People used to charge these things and get this number of power.
Excited.
So excited. And man, it's great. And I still don't fit in it, which is tragic. I was very excited to get the soft top. In fact, we requested this car because we had the RF last year, which we loved. But I unfortunately had to drive with the top down the entire time. In fact, it rained. several times when I was driving it, and I found out if you just drove faster, the rain didn't come in, and that's exactly what I did. Um, Luckily, with the soft top, I learned one thing: there is not really more room in it, but my head can push through the fabric a little bit. So that's the good news. It can bubble up over my head if it needs to.
Mhm.
But look, I'm not going to rehash everything. Go check the review up for that. It's a stunner of a car. I love it. One day I'll probably have one and drive it once a year, and I'll be upset because I don't fit in it well. I can't drive it every day, but I'll be so happy it's there. So there's that.
Mhm. Okay, I want you to get digging through some nerd stuff on it. And again, we talked about it in the video. You can watch the video to get to see what we're talking about. But because you kind of pointed something out that I missed on previous cars and just didn't pay attention to. But the positioning of that control arm, the upper control arm, and the front steering, you called it.
Oh, sure.
Explain what you meant by that and what that's about and why that's so special compared to most cars out there.
Oh, this is actually a really big deal. So think of this is the example I used in the review was the 370Z
Mhm.
or 350Z or the really a lot of cars do this now. The current Honda Accord does this as well. Think of a double A arm suspension, or the technical name is short long arm suspension. It means there's an upper and lower control arm with a vertical component connecting them together, which is called the knuckle.
Mhm.
On those sports cars, the Z's and the current Mustangs are the same way. The ball joint is not inside the wheel itself, the barrel of the wheel. They're actually on like this weird shaped pickle fork that comes out over and
Mhm.
out, and it's actually mounting above the tire
Mhm.
outside of the wheel. And what that does is it reduces leverage on the knuckle itself, and it reduces torque load and heavy cornering on certain components, control arms, and that kind of stuff. Well, what Mazda has done is they've managed to put that back inside the wheel, the barrel of the wheel itself. And they've kept that control arm down low, which allows them to keep the hood low, which allows them to use less body material. And because they've used less body material, the increased leverage on that top control arm being inside the wheel is not a problem because they've kept the weight down.
They've done the Lotus trick. Like these are
They
all the
lotus
benefits
the hell out of it.
of reducing weight. You get so many advantages. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
Well, because you reduce weight, you can now use less material on the control arms, right? So that's
Yes.
even more weight savings.
Yeah.
And then instead of using a steel knuckle like the NA Miata used to use, that's the funny part is this design is almost identical to the NA. It's just aluminum instead of steel.
Mhm.
And it's actually funny if you look at, more modern Mustangs, say '05 and up Mustangs, they share some components of this.
Mm.
The E46 M3 or BMWs,
Mhm.
they use a similar lower L arm, instead of an A arm, an L arm control arm. This and the Mustangs and they all use this.
Yeah.
Because it's all aluminum, that knuckle is now strong enough, it can be smaller it's as well, which reduces unsprung weight, which is why it just drives so well.
Right.
Now, the steering component, this is actually fascinating to me because you look at a lot of sports cars, there'll be rear steer. What that means is that the rack and pinion is mounted to the
And hang on. You don't when you say rear steer or front steer, you don't mean the positioning of the wheels on the car. It's not the back wheels turning. It's position of go ahead, continue what you're saying.
Oh, no, thank you for clarifying. No, it's still we're talking about the front axle steering.
Yeah.
But instead of the rack and pinion being mounted in front of the tires in the hub or behind the hub,
Mm-hmm.
you think of the hub being the center of the wheel and the brake.
Yes.
These are mounted in front of. So
And
they're
most cars
leading
are the reverse.
exactly. Cars, trucks, you name it. They're usually in the back for packaging with oil pans from the engine and that kind of stuff. So it's quite fascinating. In fact, they had to do some finagling with oil pan to make that work, and it did.
And so what is the advantage of that?
So the advantage of that is that the steering rack is now leading the wheels instead of pushing them and dealing with forces. When you hit a pothole,
Mm.
that leverage will then hit that wheel and tug at that wheel going backwards.
Mm.
Well, now there's more engineering force on that entire steering rack.
So better
Which
fuel,
means-
better feedback.
Well, and here's what I'm getting back to the lightness. That steering rack would have to be stronger if it was behind the hubs.
Mm-hmm.
If it's leading, that steering rack doesn't need to be quite as beefy, which means it's more docile, which means you have less intervention between your fingers and what's actually on the ground.
So rider and horse are more one.
They are more one, which is the whole ethos of Mazda, right? Like this car just personifies the theme of Mazda. which is why when I drive the Mazda 3 hatch, I get so frustrated because none of this applies to that.
Oh, there it is. Couldn't go all through a Mazda segment without that. Okay.
I know. But what you take my point. And the other thing too is they've mounted the tie rod ends. They're mounted. A lot of cars you'll see them mounted lower
Mm-hmm.
for more leverage and Ackerman changes, which is what that means when you turn into a parking spot, the inside wheel turns slightly sharper than the outside wheel.
Yep.
Mazda has somehow managed to keep the mounting point dead center with the center of the hub.
Yeah.
So not only is it in front, it's cleanly mounted straight at the right pickup point. It's just fascinating. They've really
It
clean
really
sheet
is,
done
and
a
I
good job.
think it gets glossed over a lot. And I think you did a great job explaining that in the video. So if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's really don't gloss over the suspension setup on the front of that Mazda. And if you own
It matters.
Miata,
Yeah,
and
it
if
matters.
you have a Miata and it's sitting in your garage in your driveway, go take the front wheel off, put it on axle jack stands, and just admire the engineering there. It's just a beauty to behold. And they've just done that throughout the whole car. It's such a sight to sore eyes, especially in this era of paywalls and no feedback in driving. And this is the opposite of all that. And they still make it, and they're still engineering and still investing time and energy, which is, I don't understand why they're doing it. I don't know how this is a money making machine thing for them, but I love that they're doing it. So,
well, this is part of the reason why we got an ND Miata than an ND2, right? They did the math and said, well, we can do the new car, but we can't get the powertrain to where we think it should be yet.
mm-hmm.
And so they waited 2 years and they did it right, man. I really want to commend them. Like you said, they've done a really good job of making a cohesive, clean sheet project. I just really wish there was a way to make it, 25% bigger so I could fit in it. I just wish there was a way, because I would just drive it everywhere all the time and forever. It's just such a joy to drive. And hats off to him.
Okay, and to close the Miata thing up, I do want to ask you a question though, and that is, so you had the RF, we had the soft top. If you had to buy one, and let's just say you could, well, you are what you are, you struggle fitting in them. Which one would you get?
I would, man, this is hard because I actually liked the RF look and the feel. Because I felt like when the top was up, it did feel more stiff. It did feel like a coupe because it was just rigid. Not that the convertible was problematic by any means. It just, there was a slight difference there. I would get the soft top, and the only reason why is because in a pinch, I could still drive it with the top up.
Okay.
And there are lowering brackets for the seats. You can get another inch out of it. It's not ideal. Maybe an aftermarket seat might be the key. Maybe a Lotus Elise seat might make it drivable.
Yeah, there's other seat manufacturers out there. There's
some things that can be done. Yeah. But I do like the RF more. I do like the look of it. I like it looks like a baby F type, which is just a good thing to look like. But it's still its own thing. It's not a carbon copy. It's a beautiful thing. I want you to get an RF, and I want me to get a soft top someday.
Well, that's the actual answer, because that's what I would get. I would get the RF because it's just a little more creature comforty with the quietness.
Right. It's more livable for sure.
And in my long drive, I get some highway in at speed, and it's just a little more comfortable. So in between the twisty back roads, I'm a little more comfortable, and that's basically it. So
yeah, I think it's less of a compromise to get the RF.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, I'm going to let you lead off the next one, and that is one of our favorites. That is fun with comments.
Oh, yes.
Well, I say that. Do you want to lead off? You want me to lead it off? I don't care.
Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want to do.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going first. We're going to keep on staying on the Mazda theme.
Okay,
because we've got my beloved 2011 Mazda 2 that originally had no one watch it. Now, all of a sudden, for some reason, Brian, people are watching it. I don't understand what's happening.
Well, and by people, you mean Mazda 2 owners.
Well,
all of them. They've all watched it.
Apparently a bunch of times, too, because now it's past your Mustang video. So,
well,
So let's just get into one of the comments here. That is, and as y'all know, I've named the car Gary. Okay, I know it's not typical to name a car a dude or any vessel or vehicle, but that's what it is. Its name is Gary. And this person, Minty Dog 06, said, I agree with naming the car, but Gary? Nah, I'd call mine Emily. Right? I'm just going to have a quick go on Emily. Great to hear it's ran for 200,000 though. Great stuff. I love this comment because I'm pretty sure this guy's from the UK. I'm just gonna have a quick go.
Right.
And I also love that he's watching a 2011 Mazda 2 video and thinking about what he would name his if he had one, which is hilarious. Like, who does that? But
Well, apparently this guy does.
But this is countered. This is countered by Bart 8 days previously.
Okay.
Same video. He had a comment, and that is, I guess he's from the UK too. Maybe it's taken off in the UK. My Mazda 2 2011 UK version at 68,000 miles is pile of rust and piece of junk.
Very good.
Muffler fell off because rust, crackling noise from steering rack, cracking noise from gearbox, clutch pedal do tap click, then pressed about 50%, and much, much more. Oh, and rust everywhere, even on oil pan. Okay. Bart,
Okay.
I appreciate your comment. I'm going to just tell you you're right and you're wrong in your comment. Number one.
Oh, you're going to give him right out of that?
Here's where he's right. Cracking noise from steering rack. You're absolutely right. I had that at 30,000 miles. And Brian, I'm at 225,000 miles. And I did it just the other day. And I kicked myself for not doing it sooner. I pulled that steering rack off a little bit. There's one little bolt. You pull it back apart. You grease it up. You put it back together. Guess what? Noise gone. It was that simple.
Uncle.
Literally cost me $5. All this other stuff, I'm not really sure what he's talking about, except he's driving in a salty environment, and every car rusts in a salty environment. So I don't know what he's talking about. So, anyways,
look, I just want to say that Bart must live under the sea. That's the only thing I can figure for the rust situation because, well, we live in Texas, so that's not a problem here. But look, Japanese cars are not known for not rusting, so that's kind of well, Subaru, all of them, all of them.
So
that's just how that is.
But again, fun with I love fun with comments because that's exactly what these are.
My favorite.
Both those guys, great comments. I love that they're watching it. What's this old 2011 beat up Mazda? They're wasting their time, but I love that they're wasting their time with us. So thank you.
It's a hoot. Yeah.
And that they spent enough time wasting with us that they actually commented and chimed in. So love it. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm going to lead in now with the opposite of Gary. I think that, and in fact, I'm glad you went the Gary route because I love both of those. And I want to actually get into those. I'm glad you brought them up. So I'm going to go via the C5Z06 Corvette.
Okay. Ooh.
And this is from the guy's handle is Joe.
By the way, we get a lot of comments on this vehicle.
We do. Well, part of it is because we said, what was it, Vet 2020? That was our.
We did get political. Yeah, we did get political.
We got a little political. The only time I've done that. That was fun. Okay, I'm just going to lead into it. Decent review, but I need to correct you because that's our job. First of all, it's midlife transformation, not midlife crisis. Duh. And finally, thank you for mentioning my yellow automatic ragtop as an old white man's car, said this Latino man.
Oh, man.
So great.
That is
so great.
Gosh, that's the best. I just love how this car gets people so riled up. Now, obviously, this guy doesn't. It sounds like this guy's having fun with it, but
he was smiling. Yeah,
fun stuff.
And we had some back and forth after that. I posted a few things back to him, so that was a good time. I love that someone commented it and wasn't mad about something because I've learned about the C5, Craig, is that every C5 owner thinks it's worth all the money on the planet, and it's the best car ever made. And everyone else has driven something beyond the C5 Vet. And so if you comment anything but compliments on it, you're going to get ripped apart.
Yeah.
C5 crowd.
Well, let me ask you a question on comments, controversial comments.
Sure.
What's more controversial or polarizing? The Vet or any diesel?
Oh boy. Man, there's a fragile ego situation with some diesel drivers. But that applies to Vet drivers too a little bit because the Vet's the whole I don't need European sophistication. I got a V8. and then you drive anything else like a Miata and you go, oh shit, this is a problem, right? So, I don't know. That's a really good question. I'm just gonna leave that there, Craig.
I mean,
right where it's at.
And I would say they're both as controversial as Trump or Biden or vaccine or no vaccine. They're all controversial.
Ooh. Oh, back to cars and vaccines. We're in Texas. We have a lot of trucks.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that the T-Rex or the TRX is just a dump truck with a Hellcat.
Yeah.
It's actually brilliant. It's an amazing exercise. Can't believe they make this and sell it, and like Greenpeace isn't setting them on fire whenever they get a chance.
Yeah, because when Ford made the Excursion, they almost got destroyed. But yeah,
right.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah. Call it Baja and it's okay for some reason. Anyways, and that applies to the Raptor too to a certain extent, but you know, there's a degree of sensibility. By the way, the T-Rex has made my old Raptor seem like a Prius in comparison. It's brilliant. Makes me feel a lot better about it.
Yeah.
I saw him the other day. There was a black T-Rex with the whole the light bar on the bed and all that stuff, and the license plate was a custom plate, Craig.
Ooh.
And it said not vaxxed.
Oh, that
okay,
man. I mean, does it get any better than that? You're driving the most irresponsible vehicle probably ever made on the planet.
Least socially considerate vehicle I've ever seen in my life.
And then just straight up not vaxxed. I mean, okay, whether you're for the vax, not the vax, that's pretty funny.
Oh, sure. It's just the irony was not lost on me. I had a good laugh at it. Yeah, so you brought up a borderline Me Too comment with the having to go and Emily. I've got one more that's along that vein. This is the Sasquatch versus the Rubicon.
Bronco versus I know what you're talking about. This will be good.
This is from Rod S. 2 weeks ago. I never responded to him because I didn't know what to say to him. He said, "I think they're both made for women unless they're lifted and modded." Canceled. Yep. Canceled.
How do you respond to that? I don't know what you
and on that note, we have a podcast, Craig. I was afraid to touch that comment. I won't respond to it.
Yeah.
Even though I think he's wrong, but
lots of traps and landmines there. Don't just
yeah.
That's podcast. Where do they need to go to check out more?
BrakeCheckShow.com and go check out our YouTube reviews. We've got a ton of fun things. We may have a vehicle you're looking for right now for yourself. We probably already hit it up. Mm-hmm. And if not, shoot us a note. We'll do our best to work in a review request.
And also want to tease, we've got some changes coming this year that will be announced soon, maybe on or around the time this thing's coming out. But stay tuned for that. We're very excited about that. We're 2 years in. We got past our 5,000 subscribers. And so stay tuned. We've got some fun stuff coming.
Yeah, we have some refocusing coming up. I'm really excited about it. I think it's just going to make it better for us and for our viewers. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, Brian. That was fun.
Take care.
All right.